what's up, Wagon Burners? Welcome to another episode of Burn the Wagon. We're here to burn the wagon that is capitalism, patriarchy, and colonialism. Today, I'm having an artist on by the name of Big Wind. So, from the Arapaho tribe. So we're gonna get there. I would just listen to their music too, so their music's dope. Go check them out on Spotify. I request Warriors to the Front because that was dope. I just listened to that one. That was hot. So welcome to another episode. Like I just said, we're going to get going here pretty soon. A couple of things that I want to get out there is we do have merch left. I have stickers. I have shirts. I am planning another Burn the Wagon live event, just like that one back there. It's going to be in Santa Cruz, California. So if you want to come and look out for those, flyers coming out soon. A whole kind of stuff going on too. Oh, next month, look out for the Finest Feathers native fashion show, where we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. We're going to be doing behind the scenes stuff, interviewing people. Native TV is what we're calling it. It's gonna be dope. Hey, what's up? I just sent you a request, so I'm gonna send you another one. So just hop in here whenever you want to hop in. I was just listening to your music. Warriors to the Front is a hot one for me. What's up, Uli? Hope you're doing good. Except, all right. For some reason, this ain't working. Oh, there we go. Hey,
Hey, what's up?
how you doing?
Doing good. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. It's my Friday, so we're just winding down after the week.
Yeah,
Was just listening to your music on Spotify. Warriors to the Front is something I was just telling people is a dope track that I hella like.
I appreciate
But yeah, welcome to an episode of Burn the Wagon, where we're here to burn the wagon that's capitalism, patriarchy, and colonialism. And I just want to do a little prayer real quick, and then we'll get into what the questions that we got going. I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from mental health issues. I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from domestic violence issues. I want to send love to any of our Palestinian brothers and sisters out there that are suffering from what's going on out there. Lastly, I want to send love to the land. And here I am in Pomo territory. If you guys want to drop where you guys at in the comments, go ahead. And then if you want to let everyone know where you're at, that'd be dope too. So just want to give yourself an intro and just let people know where you're from, what you're about, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Hitati na habathin sesi nichia na asit na hinone inana na hafte nichia. It's good to be here. My name is Big Wind Carpenter. I use they them pronouns. I'm a Northern Arapaho tribal member. On my dad's side, I'm Grovant, which is actually like a northern band of the Arapaho too. And then I also have like some Ojibwe ancestry on his side. And then my mom is northern Arapaho with some like Lakota and Nakota ancestry as well.
And the language you spoke, is that connected to your father's or your mother's side?
It's northern Arapaho.
Okay. And do you have a connection to both sides?
Uh, I grew up around my mom's family, and as an Arapaho, like the way that Arapaho works is like it's matrilineal. So like I come from a long line of Arapaho women essentially. And that's kind of like the determinant of kind of like my upbringing. Um, but I was born off reservation in Montana in a city called Great Falls, like 80,000 people. And that's like where my dad's from. And then they ended up moving to my mom's res when I was a young kid. And I grew up on the Wind River Reservation, where I'm calling from today.
Okay, and that's the way. That's where your name comes from.
Yeah, I'm so Hasei Sinichi is the big Wind River. And so there's two rivers. There's the Little Wind River, there's the Big Wind River, and essentially me and my sibling were given those names at one point in time.
Oh, okay, and how many siblings do you have?
I have four younger well, I have four younger biological sisters, but you know how it is. I have a lot of all my cousins are my brothers and sisters too, so I definitely have a lot of them, but I have four younger biological sisters.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I was adopted the first day I was born. I didn't grow up with my sisters, but I do have three sisters.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's and like we stayed connected throughout life, so it's I do have a connection with them. So growing up with sisters, like they're always fucking with me all the time. But how was is your how big is you guys' res out there?
It's pretty big. We have one of the larger reses actually. It's like three times the size of Rhode Island, like 2 million acres.
Oh
Um,
shit, that's the complete opposite of my res. My res is tiny.
yeah, I took it for granted growing up here actually. I when I was like a kid, I dreamed that I wanted to live in the city and like escape this place, and then like moved around for a bit, and then like made my way back here. Just being like, yeah, actually, I don't want to live like that. The rat race,
I,
it's not for me. Not meant for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah, I was the same way. I went to Santa Cruz and I was there for 10 years. And Santa Cruz is one of the widest places in California. And like
Mm,
I was around no natives for so long, and then I was like, dude, I'm over this. Like I got to get back to the res and just get back to the native, like where our native people are. What were some of the places that you ended up living?
Denver. I pulled a stint in Louisville, Kentucky, which was really different. Living in Louisville, and then lived in Massachusetts there for a second, and then um, I lived in Minnesota for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So, like I said, I was just listening to your music, and one of the questions that you said you really wanted to bring up is things that you really believe in. So I kept checking out your page and obviously listening to your music. You're sounds like you're really passionate about being a black snake killer. So like let's get into that stuff and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, totally. I think for me, I've always been like an inquisitive person. And so when I was young, like I didn't have the words for it, for a lot of the things that I think we were experiencing. And one of them being like environmental racism. And so I grew up I'm a product of the housing projects, and I grew up at the housing projects. And so one of the housing projects, the uh, the oil and gas fields are right behind it, and then it's named Beaver Creek. And so the actual Beaver Creek we used to play in, we'd fish in. There's a catfish in there, and we would swim there. I didn't know, and I started having like all these like skin issues and stuff, and it was because they were using that creek for like dissolved solids and stuff. Like I was essentially swimming in toxins and poisons, and like there wasn't enough public awareness. Like it was happening, and the tribe was aware, but the tribal members were not being educated on these situations, essentially. And so like you could really see like from my mom's porch, essentially where my mom lives, there used to be like uranium. There was like a yellow cake factory is what they call it. It's like what makes uranium enriched. And now, like even though that has closed down, like the groundwater's radioactive. So like we live in a community where the water has to get pumped in, and like from the porch you can like on the north side of the Wind River in a border town called Riverton, you can see like mansions and the golf course. And then the res line is right on the south side of the Wind River, and everyone's living in trailer homes, and the water's poisoned, and like we're living right next to this like factory that essentially turns molten sulfur into sulfuric acid, and it's just like, you know, I think experiencing all these things and then growing up and being like, why is this happening? And no one really had an answer, you know? They're like, that's just the way it is, or the way it's been for the last 100 years or so. And so it got me like, I became an organizer at like a really young age. I was like 13 years old when I joined like the youth council on the reservation and started organizing in my community. There was like a couple things, I think, when I was like also 13, uh, the county that the reservation is in was like being sued by the tribes, and then like the tribes won, and the county was found guilty of like gerrymandering the reservation and diluting Native American vote. And so previous to this like election, there had never been like a native elected to public office other than tribal. And then once that election happened, like we got like two natives, one into county commissioners, one into like the state legislature. So I think like that really like those things really impacted me as like a teenager growing up on the reservation. Um, and I think after that, I kind of well stayed involved through activism, and then ended up. I was actually working for this group called the Wind River Native Advocacy Center when the Dakota Access Pipeline popped off. And some people who aren't aware, like um, the Dakota Access Pipeline essentially was this pipeline being built through northern Minnesota. It was like a tar sands pipeline. And the Standing Rock tribe did not want it to go through. So there was this huge protest. And like Fort Laramie, the treaty that land is under, actually, Fort Laramie's in Wyoming. And so I went out there, like, I'm a direct descendant of a signatory of that treaty. And I know that like everyone who signed that treaty was pretty much forced to, had no option, but wanted to like support our like treaty relatives by going out there. And I ended up spending like 6 months out there. And I think it like woke me up, honestly, because I felt like everything that I had been doing previous to then was just like maybe not enough. I don't know. I think it's really interesting when like I think we're all given these tools and we're like, this is what our like the people before us have done. Like this is what our predecessors have done. Um, or like this is like the line you're supposed to toe. And I think for a lot of these mechanisms that we rely on, um, like you don't see results firsthand, or if you do, it takes like months or years. But at Standing Rock, what I recognized was like firsthand, you could see results almost instantaneously. You want to stop construction, you literally like you people are crawling into the pipes, chaining themselves to machines, locking down to equipment, and you could see I mean I could see work stopping right in front of my eyes, and like we were just it was like taking your power back. And even though it was like a different tactic than like I think our ancestors used, I think the sentiment was like we're gonna do what we have to do to protect this land. And that like I think really kind of informed or changed my life, honestly. And I ended up going on to fight other pipeline fights. Well, most recently was over in Minnesota fighting Line 3. And so after Line 3 was built, and we gave a big fight, I decided to head back home and try to bring this work back to my community. Again, it's really interesting because I come from a oil and gas tribe, and like we receive dividends. I get a per cap every single month from like royalties or whatever. um but I never really realized that like I don't think that the like a lot of these contracts they were signed for long amounts of time. And so like even when they were literally stealing it from us before we were even getting a piece of a pie, those council members who like decided like we're going to start like demanding our piece of the pie, like I don't think that they knew the impacts that it would have in the future. Like I don't think that they knew that like it was going to affect our families, that it was going to affect the environment, and then much later, like this climate crisis that is happening. And so now I feel like it's not an excuse. Like we know better, and we just keep doing it. So there's kind of like this, like trying to shift the ideology back at home, essentially. And I think young people get it. Like, but I think like we're just the reservation is just a microcosm of this like much larger issue where it's like the older folks, like all they've known is like this kind of mentality of like this is how we get our money. Like I always hear in our community it's like oil and gas is our bread and butter, and I'm like, yeah, but like bread and butter are colonial too. Like no, like
Yeah, so I was gonna go back to when you were saying like you guys got your first natives into like
yeah.
offices. Like, how do you feel about like natives being involved into these political like colonial structures? It's really hard because if
Mm.
we don't get them in there, then we're not going to be able to change policy. It's hard. Like I don't want like it's hard. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to encourage anybody to go out there and be a politician, but at the same time, how are we going to get like shit changed? You know?
No, totally. And the thing is like I also, as a person who like went through that, like, and I've done a lot of like nonpartisan get out the vote stuff, like even myself, I'm like, who am I to tell Indians to trust the government?
Yeah,
Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think for me, it's, um, I think at a small scale, like at a local level, there's a lot of positions that representation is important. I don't think that we should put all our eggs in a basket for sure. And I think one thing that I will say that I think was really funny this last voting cycle was the like coined phrase that like voting is sacred. And I was like, no, like voting's a duty, maybe. It's a lot of things, but not
No.
sacred, you know?
I saw some and somebody recently told me about this too. It's like they saw a book that says decolonizing capitalism. It's like that doesn't fucking make sense.
Yeah, decolonize
Yeah,
wealth. Money is
yeah,
meant.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
it's like what?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like at the local level, it's really important to like encourage people to get out there because at our local levels, that's how we make. Because think about how much can be changed in that local level if we like get somebody in there. Because like the dirt, not only is like the water fucked up, but your guys, you can't grow anything say you want to grow something in your front yard, you can't
Yeah.
grow anything because that dirt's all completely like screwed up from that oil, you know, and years and years and years of that.
Hmm. Yep. It's definitely hard, and I feel like for me, I don't just also blanket support Indians that run either. Like there's based off of conversations. In these last like two election cycles, I've supported two Native American women. I don't aspire to for politics. That's not, I think, my role. But I especially like as a matriarchal tribe, as a matrilineal tribe, like if there are like I was raised by stronger Arapaho women, so knowing that there's like Arapaho women that are like, this is for me, this is the role that I play in our community, I'm like, I will support you based on these kind of certain kind of agreements. And it's like, one, are you going to run a clean campaign? Like you're not going to accept money from like big oil, big pharma, like the guns lobbyists. Like I don't know, I'm just like because I often see like how um especially here in Wyoming, like a lot of people don't run clean campaigns because they are speaking for special interest groups. And that's not something that I really want to get into. So I feel like the two are like Arapaho women who were running this last election cycle, I'm like, are you going to run a clean campaign? They both said yes. I'm like, great. Can you sign this thing that says you're going to do that? And like, they're like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, cool. Like, and now I just like hold you accountable. Like, you know, through this process, we check sure that like all the donations that are coming in are like not from these certain special interest groups, and then like talking about like I think certain ideologies. It's like, do you believe, like, what do you believe in, and wondering about like the climate crisis, like this kind of like, I think for me it's like the fight of our generation. um and so I think aligning on those things before actually um unilaterally deciding that I'm going to vote somebody based on just like ethnicity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Wyoming is also like the lowest populated state. Like, we all know each other. Like, where there's only 500,000 people that live in the state. Um, and I come from a tiny community, so it's like anybody who gets elected, native or not, like, we run into each other. We know who they are, who their families are. And I think oftentimes that's when it means the most.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like what you're saying about just like not voting for somebody just because they're native. Because I feel like in native politics, people don't really at least out here, people don't campaign for themselves. They just like expect you to vote for them just because based on like their last name or their family. And I don't know
Yeah,
if it's like that out there, you know what I mean?
yeah. They
Um,
definitely can get into that for sure.
so yeah, I feel like you saying like people out there are campaigning like as native people is like what? I've never seen that out here, you know what I mean?
You gotta work for it out
And
here.
actually that's because my mom just said that the other day about like it's people that want to be on council, they should go around and kind of campaign because nobody knows some of these people that are saying they want to be on council and how we're supposed to get to know them unless they go around and talk to people. And like you said, having conversations.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
So I want to move on to your music because
Mhm.
I just want to tap in and see like at what point because you said you've been organizing
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah,
Have you been writing music for the same amount of time, or has that just kind of just flowed into life as you've started organizing?
yeah. I would say I start off by like, I'm a lover of music. I went to school. I went to school for like production, radio broadcast, and kind of did that for a second, but realized like that's a skill I have, but not like a world I just want to like focus on. And I still like, I think it's important to me. I still do like side gigs, make regular playlists and mixes because I just love music so much. But I think I wrote my first song when I was like 13 years old. I remember I was rapping with my sister and her friend at a youth talent show on the Raz. And I believed like, and it was like those rappers and others like Frank Wan, Shateska, who like show me that natives don't just have to do like traditional music, that we're contemporary beings, so we can do both, or we can like also like implement our stuff and kind of like fuse it in. Like, I've seen that a lot too, which I really love. And I think what I love about hip hop is like that it's based off of struggle. And like, I'm a 90s baby, so like I love when like rap tells stories and tells the truth. Like, I think that that's like kind of my grounding in music. um but I honestly feel like I didn't take my personal music that serious until about 7 years ago. um and essentially like Standing Rock had ended, and I was like in a really dark place. Like, I just couldn't, I don't know, like just being there, seeing like a rise and a fall of a civilization, all the messed up things that happened to us while we were out there trying to protect the land as well, and then being criminalized for it. Like, it kind of ate me up. And I started to like self-medicate and like get into some really unhealthy coping skills that I think I grew up with. Like, those were the coping skills that you do. It's like you just go get fucked up or something. And I was like, no, like, this is not the life I want for myself. Like, this is not what I envisioned for myself. And like, this is just not healthy. And so I kind of like recognized that I needed to find healthy coping skills. And in that process, like essentially, yeah, got sober, and just started writing music all the time. And I ended up writing like my first mixtape, like all within like one weekend, like 7 songs or something like that. And it's titled Land Back. It's like on Bandcamp, and I that was released like 5 years ago on Indigenous Peoples Day, like 5 years ago. And I feel like for me that was like a turning point in my life. Like I had just turned like 25. I was like, this is what I don't know, actually believing in myself, because I feel like I've always believed in other people's ideas, but like I just don't know how many times like we need to tell ourselves like that we put the same amount of energy that we do in other people's ideas into our own ideas, into ourselves, and believing in ourselves, you know. So I think that that was really important for me.
I think I struggled with that as well, like growing up, because like with this podcast and like doing this, like this is the first time I actually was like believing in my like you're saying, like believing in
Yeah.
myself, and it was like the first time I actually felt like, oh shit, like I feel amazing, you
Yeah.
know, like after believing in myself, like I feel like amazing, and I've gotten so much done after that. So like I really like appreciate you saying that, because like that's something that I feel like our communities don't do a great job of enforcing in some of our youth, and I see that changing these days. But back when I was growing up, I feel like I wasn't given like the best skills to have confidence in myself.
Yeah. 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 It's definitely hard. And I feel like, especially, I think we do have an obligation to tell like indigenous like youth and young people growing up that like they can do whatever they think is possible, because there was like so much stuff that I did not think was possible, and now I feel like I'm doing them. And so I'm like, dang, like I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to like go to all these different indigenous communities. I feel like I have like a network and a friend group like across Turtle Island and going into other places. Like these are things that I would have never imagined as like a res kid. Um, so just like, yeah, providing that kind of thing. That's like we need to like believe in ourselves and our dreams, and put that same amount of energy and into what we believe in.
Yeah, where are some places that you've done shows so far?
I got to perform in Madrid, which
What?
was cool. Yeah.
Spain, all the way in Spain, huh? Some of the original colonizers colonizing over there.
Yeah, no, it's actually wicked. Really funny thing, because me and one of my friends, we have like someone painted a mural of us in Barcelona, and I've never even been to Barcelona, dude. And so I'm like, and they're like, well, you need to come and check out this, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But I think for me, like the what I like doing is like I do like making music that means something. And so right now, even with like the new project that I'm working on that we'll talk about in a little bit later, um, and then this like kind of like the songs I've been releasing this last year, and my mixtape, it's what kind of like a subcategory of what I would call movement bangers, where it's like something that you can like ride to like the front lines to, or you're getting ready for an action, um and something that like means something, but like also is like danceable, like you can get down to it kind of situation, you know. um
Dude, I'm about to ride to the casino, bumping that Warriors to the front.
Hopefully you win. Just
No, I don't gamble. I'm just gonna use my mom.
just cruising
Yeah,
around, yeah.
I'm hit the block one time and we'll play it real loud so everybody can hear it.
Hey, yeah.
But is there any like traditional dances or anything like that that you participate in?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I think for me, um, being able to participate in our ceremonies is really important to me. And so for me, like I'm a sun dancer, and that like way of life, um, I think really helps me on my sobriety, my well-briety journey, is knowing that like there's the human body is like actually something that's so incredible. And like we can, as Arapaho people, like the way we believe is like there's something, there's some kind of sacrifice for our prayers to be answered. And so like when we go like, you know, to sweat, or when we're going to a peyote meeting, or when we're going into fasting times that we have throughout the year, like there's always something to give up, you know? And it's really interesting, I think, when you like really like can like get rid of all the distractions, get rid of all of like these, I think, things that ultimately hold us back in the material realm, but be able to like channel our energy. And when we give those things up, or give something up, like it allows for those kind of like prayers to be answered. And I'm like a firm believer in that. I've seen it happen, you know, miracles happen just by like prayers alone.
Absolutely. Um, so you say you're a sun you're participating in Sundance. You
Yeah.
said, right? Correct.
Hmm.
And what time of the year does that happen?
uh Around summer solstice time.
Okay, so it just recently passed, right? A couple
Yeah.
months ago.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I actually have a friend who was telling me a little bit more about it. But yeah, it's amazing because I'm just getting back into like dancing and cultural dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful to be able to like connect with other people and see other people putting their stuff out there too, and like to see like tribes from here and like be able to say see your guys' regalia on the internet is amazing because we're all connecting and seeing each other do this amazing things. So yeah, I just want to continue to see natives out there doing shit and getting connected to their culture.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's definitely influenced my worldview. Um, I didn't actually like I grew up on the res, but I didn't grow up traditional. Like both of my parents were not traditional. And it's something that I feel like I had to seek out as a young, and I'm glad like I had like this space to be able to do that, and like to be able to grow up in community and find people who could show me those things. And like I think as a young person I like craved and sought those things out. It just wasn't coming from like my parents, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then to like kind of like see the ripple effects, I think essentially kind of, you know, ripple out into my family unit. Like my dad's a sun dancer, and um, now like my mom goes to sweats and does all the things. And I think like sometimes it is like us younger people like kind of just like bringing those things back to our family unit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's super important because I feel like that's the thing. Me and my friend are having a conversation the other day. It's super important that like people are missing ceremony in their lives. And I
Yeah.
think that's very important for people just to get connected with any type, whatever ceremony it may be, you know, like it just, I think that you have to get connected to some type of ceremony.
Yeah, I think it's important. Ritual's pretty important, and I think, you know, I think that's I think hmm, there's obviously ways that you should not do things and don't appropriate other people's cultures, but I would say in general, like humans have um like a way of making rituals that we don't even see within our like daily lives anyway. Like I think it's so weird when I think about like even meal times, like that's a ritual.
Yeah,
Like we like
yeah,
eat in
I agree.
community, and we're all eating the same exact thing. So we're all like vibrating at the same thing, like kind of vibration
Yeah,
from the food that we're consuming, the conversation we're consuming. or like a birthday party, we're all surrounded by this like circular cake with lights on it. We're like chanting. And like people don't see those things as like rituals in their life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wake up in the morning and I have some rituals that I have to do every morning that I feel like they make my day go better, you know, when I set those intentions, just like right when I wake up, like my day goes better, you know.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because I'm 3 years sober, 3 years and 10 months now. I wanted to ask you, how long have you been sober for?
6 years, actually.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, congratulations for your sobriety as well. It's definitely good.
Yeah.
I
Like,
had like it was really hard actually because like I said, like I moved away from the res for a bit, and I would do good when I was away, like I when I was living in different places. um but then I just feel like I'd come back home and then like relapse because I would hang out with like the same crowd that like I just grew up with, and that was kind of like how we learned how to do things, you know. And I remember it was really interesting. Like in my first year of sobriety, essentially, I told my mom, she was like, why aren't you coming home? Or like, why haven't you came to see me? Because like even when I was away, I would try to come back like every month. And I was like, Mom, I'm just scared that I'm gonna relapse. And she was like, oh, well, if you need to stay away, then like you should stay away. And I stayed away for like a whole year. I did not, and come back to the res. And I remember calling my mom more than a couple of times and be like, I don't think I can make it. Like, I want to come home. She's like, you already said you were gonna do what you're gonna do, so just do it. Um, and then like what I realized is like I came home and like, you know, a lot of the friends that I grew up with, childhood friends and family, like they were still doing the same thing. And I just wasn't interested in that anymore. Like it that wasn't my life anymore. And so like trying to like hang out with them, just like we weren't vibrating on the same vibration anymore. It was just different, you know? And so I needed new friends. I needed new things to do at home. I needed to like find healthier ways to like be in community, essentially. It's all a learning process. I don't think it gets easier. Like life does not get easier, but I love waking up every day, not having to deal with like repercussions of the night before. Uh, I feel like this is also like the most present I've ever been in my life. Like, and I'm like, whoa, this is what it feels like. And like, yeah, it's
it's
intense, but also,
crazy. It's wild to be so present. It's like I can't even like explain it. Like,
yeah.
because like everything you just said, like I'm going through the same exact thing. Because I just moved home maybe like 3 months ago,
Hmm.
and like having so many fears of just like, okay, just like I'm gonna be stuck on the res, just like not stuck, but like I'm gonna be on the living on the res, and just like we're way out here in the middle of nowhere in
Yeah.
Mendocino County. It's just like the middle of the woods. Just like the closest store is like 2 hours away from us, grocery store, you know.
Hmm.
So like I was super fearful because all the homies, like I was just hanging out with them today, and they're just rotating their tires, just getting loaded up, getting drunk, and it's like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, why is anybody like sipping beers, and what is there to celebrate? You know what I mean? Like it's wild, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like the vibrate, like you said, like I can't explain it. Like the vibration that like I'm on right now is definitely different than everybody else, and like I just want to move. I just want to hang out with people that are continuing, you know, moving forward and progressing. Like I don't want people to be with hang out with people that are doing the same things they were doing last year,
Yeah.
or just doing it better in a better
Right.
way, you know.
Totally. And I think the thing is like, it's our relation to those things, you know? And like, you can have too much of anything. And it's like, for me, like, you have too much water, you know? And I feel like the culture is just like, when I grew up, like, for me, in my experience, like on the res, it was like people drank to get drunk. They didn't drink to have a good
Yeah,
time. And it was like you drink to like black out or something. I don't know. And I'm like, this is like I see where there are like certain like I think I lot of people who are able to like, have one and call it good, or have a couple every once in a while, call it good. But that was like, I think we are, like the people who modeled those kind of behaviors for us. And so I feel like growing up, like I thought that that was the point, was I didn't know that like people just have one and go home.
Nah, I'm in the same boat. Like, one thing that I remember people doing back in the day is like, all right, we're gonna take a big gulp out of the bottle, and like we're gonna do as much as eat. You're gonna drink as much as I did. So like people
Hmm.
are sitting there just chugging out of the bottle. So it's like, like that's a thing we used to do back in the day, and thought was
Right.
cool. Is get as drunk as, like you said, black out every single time.
Yeah. And so it's good. It's good to like, I think it's good to kind of like have that distinction. Like I know for certain people, certain things aren't healthy for people, and like recognizing that in myself, I'm like, I just don't have a healthy relationship, and I just can't use it at all. Like period, and that's good. Like that keeps me good, better.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met some people that were just like, "Yeah, we're just having a few." Like, wait, what? That's not. People do that?
Yeah, white people be weird. Just kidding. I know it's so funny because I go to all these events and conferences and stuff, and people are like networking, and they have like one glass of wine over this like 4 hour period, and I'm drinking water for everybody. But I'm like, dang, this is different. Like nobody's leaving like screaming at each other. No one got beat up.
Nobody's trying to steal a bottle from the bartender.
No one's trying to steal somebody's mans.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that I left out that I haven't brought up yet that you want to bring up, or you want to promote? Any actions coming up in your area that you want people to know about, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a new EP that'll be released later this year. It's called Nature Calls. It's gonna be some more like movement bangers. And then I have a music video coming out later this month for a new song called We Are the Earth's Resistance, or Water for short. And kind of like setting it up because there's these like every single year these UN conferences called the COP, and I've been like fortunate. It's the most elite climate change conference, but essentially it's like international policy on climate, and I've been fortunate enough to be invited um, into the past and this year, and so know that like I'm going to be heading to Dubai, and I think there's a lot of the world's leaders aren't acting fast enough, essentially, and so that's kind of like the conception behind this music video, this new song and music video coming out, and
And
then a
how do
couple
you
of the
feel
songs.
about going to Dubai? I feel like Dubai is a big oil like place, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Essentially, like the COP28 president this year, the one who's like leading the discussions, is like the CEO of like the Dubai Abu Dhabi like oil company. So some people could say like it's already like going in the wrong direction, and there are like a lot of, I think, folks who are protesting and not going because of that situation. I This would be my fourth cop, and I feel like for me, one of my goals in this situation, I mean, not only to like make sure that like we're a part of this process, but ever since like the creation of this like UN conference based on climate, fossil fuel lobbyists and interests have outnumbered like every other part of civil society. And last year we came pretty close, like within like indigenous peoples, like the indigenous peoples constituency called the Indigenous Peoples Organization was like within 50 delegates of the fossil fuel lobbyists. And so we're all hoping this year that Indians show out in droves, and we're able to like outnumber indigenous people from around the world are able to outnumber fossil fuel lobbyists.
Because native, I don't know if these facts. Native population make up what, 2% of the population,
4%.
but 4%, but protect what is
80.
it, 70% of the right? I think you probably know the stats better than me, but
Yeah, no, it's that was released by the UN is that 80% of the world's population, or 80% of the world's biodiversity is being protected by indigenous people, while we only make up less than 5% of the world's population. And we know that that's not by coincidence. There's direct links between this kind of, I think, based on this ideology that like the dominant society sees land as something that they're not a part of, that they have no relationship with, that they're like it's like alien to them because they've like removed themselves from the animal kingdom. So much so that like they see though like our relatives as like resources that they can manipulate and make money off of. And so like for me, it's about like ensure not only are we ensuring that there's voices there, but I think with the Wind River Reservation, we're completely surrounded by public lands, and we're literally right next to Yellowstone, the Shoshone National Forest, Bridger Teton National Forest, like all this BLM land, and it was like a means to take away land from indigenous people, and so there are policies, with this like 30 by 30 initiative for the world where they're like trying to like conserve 30% of the world's resources for future stuff to like offset carbon or whatever. But what that also means, like, we need, as indigenous people, we need safeguards that protect us because we see green colonialism, like with Israel, where they take away large portions of land and then they're planting monocrops, literally like tree plantations, and saying that it's like removing carbon from the atmosphere. It's like, okay, but you just literally removed like the original caretakers of those lands. And what we need to be doing is indigenous people are the ones who have an intimate relationship with all these local areas. And we have traditional ecological knowledge that protects these things. So those things need to be implemented into those plans. And not in like a weird way where it's like we're having like non-natives like use our TEK to do it. Like, no, you need to contract us, make sure that those resources, those dollars that need to be spent on like mitigation and restoration and whatnot, that they're being given to like tribes to be able to like do those projects on those lands. I was able to actually like see a couple of these projects. I went to Bears Ears over in the Four Corners area where there's the Utah Diné Bikéyah, like the 5 intertribal council. Like there's like 5 different tribes down there that have like a co-stewardship agreement over there. And then there's the Washoe tribe on the uh, Lake Tahoe, and they're like mitigating like the encroachment of pinions and junipers into meadows, and that like all of these projects are funded, and they have a huge benefit to the land, and we can have like those projects all over the world, but we just need to make sure that there's funding for them.
and I think that goes back into us saying that we need to get involved in the local things. Local politics is I think that goes back to that, you know what I mean? Uh-oh. Did we cut out? I'm gonna give you a second. All right, so it looks like we may have cut out. Um, that was about the end of. Oh, okay. Looks like we cut out, but that was about the end of the interview. Anyways, I'd like to thank Big Win for coming through. That was an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you and all the things that you're doing. Be sure to look out for everything they're doing. Their music is on Spotify. Give them a follow for sure. Um, yeah, and thank you guys for tuning in. If you know anybody that wants to join me, go ahead and send them the profile. Give us a follow on Spotify, YouTube, all of it. I have merch available. I have stickers available, shirts. Be looking out for us next month at the Finest Feathers fashion show. We're going to be doing behind the scenes interviews of all that. Yeah, definitely thank you guys for joining in and all the support. Peace and love.